Hey guys, it's Willow, and today I would like to go over the tips and mistakes that I found on writing dialogue. And I have a lot of notes, so I'm going to try and be kind of quick with it. Dialogue to me is the trickiest part of writing a book, and good dialogue can make your characters more believable and relatable, or it can drive the plot forward. But if it's done poorly, your readers may not want to invest in the conversation or what's being said, and they may end up missing something important. A lot of what I found does contradict itself, but it contradicts itself in going to one extreme or the other, so I thought I'd leave them in there since we can go over both the extremes, and it's a lot of finding a balance when writing. I started off researching how to write dialogue for children because I thought I would break it up that way since it's such a broad subject, and I ended up finding so much on writing children in general that I thought it could be its own video, so I just jotted down the main points that I could find. Writing dialogue for children is especially tricky because it's easy to make it cheesy or unbelievable. The first tip I could find is that you have to take how children think into account. They're still young, they don't have a lot of life experiences, but they are sponges to what's being said around them and their environment, and they may reflect that. Which brings me to my second point. Number 2 is that they can be blunt and simple, but writing them as dumb is a very common mistake. If you write them as dumb, they may be seen as flat, unimportant filler characters, and your readers may not want to get to know them. Number 3 is remember they are individuals. Even though their brains aren't fully formed yet, they do still have distinct personalities and traits that they will carry with them possibly into adulthood, and therefore their words should be selected as carefully as you would in adults. And number 4 is one of the ones that go into writing either extreme, and it is don't make them baby talk or give them unrealistic wisdom. They still have a lot of life experience to go through, so having them be wise beyond their years is often unrealistic and makes people not believe that they're really a child. And then having them do baby talk is kind of, at least for me, annoying to read and makes them come off as cheesy and dumb and not believable. And I'm going to be saying the word believable a lot because it is very important that your dialogue is believable. Number 5 is read what children read and write. Brushing up on your children's literature can be a great way to find out what kind of words that they are able to understand in which age bracket and may use, and what they're exposed to. And then reading what children write helps you understand how they understand the words that are around them and that they've been exposed to. Number 6 is read them your writing. Children have almost zero filter, and they are going to be a lot better at knowing what another child would be thinking or feeling or what they may say in certain situations than an adult may be. So if they find that something is off about your character, they will most likely tell you. And number 7 pertains particularly to teenagers, and that is don't make the mistake of writing them as overly pouty or sarcastic. Teenagers have a lot of feelings and a lot of depth to them. They are almost adults, and writing them off as a sarcastic trope of a teenager diminishes their emotions and their thoughts when it really should be complex. They're at a very volatile age. Now let's go over the do's of dialogue. Number 1, and I found this piece of advice over and over again in my research, and that is listen to people talking. This can help you develop your sense of how people tend to casually speak to one another, and what they talk about and how they say it. Number 2 is another piece of advice that I stumbled upon repeatedly, and that is read your work out loud. This is good really for any kind of writing because you can hear what sounds clumsy or unrealistic. Number 3 is make sure that when you use dialogue, it's necessary. When you write dialogue and have a conversation, it should be to either reveal characteristics of the characters in the conversation or to drive the plot forward. In other words, never use it as filler. Number 4 is if it doesn't do those two things directly, then it should be used to build suspense. Maybe they drop a plot twist or a big bomb on your character that leaves them asking more questions. Number 5 is the reason why it's so important to write your character outlines before you start writing and include how they speak, because you want it to be individual for each character. Some people may use larger or smaller words or talk with this dialect. Maybe they're from the north or the south, and people tend to use different wordings in those areas. Also, experiences will affect the way that they interact with the world around them using language. They may not use certain words, or they may be especially sensitive to certain situations depending on what they've been through. It should be as unique as their own story and their personality. Number 6 is to take into account how they feel about the person they're talking to. You wouldn't use the same wording or tone with someone you love as someone you hate or at a job interview. If they're trying to impress somebody, they may use bigger words or try to sound more professional, or if they're nervous, they may stumble or ramble or get tongue-tied. Number 7 is very commonly overlooked and forgotten about, and that is remember that your characters can lie or use subtext. They can try to distract characters that they're talking to from topics that they don't want to discuss or to keep from revealing a secret, and they can use innuendos to flirt. This also includes sarcasm, but make sure that it's not all that a character uses when they're speaking. It's okay to have a sarcastic personality character, but make sure that you throw in some real tidbits. Number 8 is keep it brief. This simply means don't use too many words or have your character ramble when it's not in their personality to do so. Some of the most intense dialogue is not fluffy and it's to the point. You shouldn't have pages and pages of dialogue. This will distract the readers and make them lose interest most likely. And having it short also helps keep your reader's attention. Number 9 is another good way to break up dialogue, and that is using action. Have your characters do something while they talk so it doesn't feel so campy. If you're going to be having a long conversation, it's good to have them doing an activity while they talk. Number 10 is something that's extremely overlooked, and it's use silence. A pause of hesitancy or a refusal to speak can speak volumes about what your character is feeling and thinking, and it can help add suspense or excitement to a conversation. In other words, sometimes it's best not to say anything at all. Those were some of the do's of dialogue that I could find. Now let's go over the don'ts. The first one is kind of a golden rule of writing, and that is no info dumping. Dialogue shouldn't be used to dump info like backstory or plot devices when it's not natural. Number 2 is another golden rule, and it is show, don't tell. As an example, you shouldn't have your characters say that they're sad. You should show that they're sad. Don't just have them say that they're scarred by something in their past. Have them show that they're scarred by something that may have been traumatic in their actions. Number 3 is don't include chit-chat. Most of the time, chit-chat is just talking about the weather and things that are not important, that don't reveal any personality or drive the plot forward. It's just boring filler. Your characters don't always have to interact through dialogue, and when they are interacting through dialogue, it should be relevant and important. Number 4 is unless it's a character trait or something important that can't be done any other way, don't have your characters go on long monologues or speeches. Think about Bond or comic book villains when they reveal their evil plot in a long speech. People tend to poke fun of that trope because it is so over the top and unnatural. It makes them come across as silly or not serious and may take away from an important moment. Number 5 is don't have your characters speak with overly or underly worded sentences. There's a line between saying I want pie and my deepest aspiration is to acquire a blueberry pastry. The exception, of course, is when it's in your character's personality to be that way. And even then, it's very easy to overdo it. You don't want to put up this shield of a trope of someone who's eccentric and speaks in long sentences, or a henchman that's dumb and only says 3 words at a time. Your character should be relevant to your story and interesting enough that you want your characters to dive deeper into who they are. The next two that I'm about to go over are both about going to either extreme, and both are actually very well fixed by using action, if not overdone. So number 6 is don't overuse he said, she said. If anything, it's best not to say anything there or to use descriptors. Number 7 is don't overuse descriptors. And when I say descriptors, I am referring to things like he mumbled or she whispered. This isn't much better than he said, she said. It really kind of translates to the same thing. And unless the tone is important to convey, then it's not needed. And if your descriptors are too long or too frequent, like you're breaking up every sentence with a descriptor, then it's going to take away from what's being said. Number 8 is especially important if you have decided to learn to do your dialogue through listening to people speak. And that is, don't use or other natural fillers. If you listen to the people speaking around you, you will find that they use or they talk in circles a lot. I never realized how much I said until I started filming for YouTube, and now it's a huge pet peeve of mine. Your reader doesn't want or need to read things like even when they're trying to think or having a conversation where it seems natural to put it in, a lot of the time it's better not to. Find other ways to express that they're having a hard time saying what they want to. Number 9 is don't have them reveal anything that they don't have a reason to. For example, if your character is trying to keep a secret, they shouldn't just blurt it out for no reason. Or if you have a shy character that has been timid and not had that arc of becoming a braver person yet, you shouldn't have them all of a sudden give a speech about their life and their feelings, because shy people tend to be more reserved and not share as easily. Our last one is number 10, and that is quirks are great but very easy to overuse and very easy to become annoying. It's fine and fun to give your characters quirks, but if every other sentence is a catchphrase or a quirk, it can become, quite frankly, annoying and repetitive. Don't write your characters like it's a sitcom. Your characters should be deep enough that you don't need these devices for them to express themselves, and your readers will want to know who they are more if they have that deeper level beyond those catchphrases and quirks. As always, keep in mind that these are just guidelines and tips that other authors have gathered for us. It's most likely that they've done these things too. If you have a good angle or reason to write your book a certain way and it breaks one of these rules, don't be offended or afraid to go with your vision. Also, if you've made one of these mistakes, it's okay. We're all about mistakes here on the Willow channel, and it's how we learn. Did you do last week's homework? I know I did. And if you did, I would love to hear some of your openings, or even just the opening line, your very first sentence. Also, did any of the tips or tricks that I went over in my last video help you go back and edit? What are some of your favorite book openings? And do you have any subjects that you would like me to research and go over for you? If you want to share any of your answers to those questions, make sure to do so down below, because I'd be thrilled to be able to read them. This week's homework is to practice your dialogue. Also, if you can, write one more page. The idea that I may be writing alongside one of you really makes me very happy. As always, my socials should be linked down below. If not, they are on my channel page. And I may be asking questions about future video subjects that I'm researching as I go along on one of those socials, and you may get sneak peeks into my next videos. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, make sure you do that. The more interaction I get on my videos, the more YouTube puts it into the algorithm and shows it to new people for them to discover it too. A short announcement is that I may be starting a job soon, and I may not have as much time to do this because I don't make money off of doing YouTube right now, and I'm very, very far away from ever being able to do that. So of course, providing for myself and for my fiance is top of the list, and even though I really love doing this, I may not have as much time. Short announcement over. As always, I love making these videos for you guys and listening to what you guys have to say and interacting with this little community on my channel. I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.